Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Holly Hunt with Beck Technology, and I just wanted to come on and introduce Matt and Tony. Today we have Matt Buddenberg and Tony McDaniel with us from Messer. Matt is a principal estimator, and Tony is a senior pre-construction executive. They have been Profiler users for several years now, but recently have really gone into some customization of the wizard in Profiler, and that's what they're going to talk about today. So with that, I'll go ahead and let you take it away, Matt and Tony.
Thank you, Holly. So again, everybody, thank you for taking the time out this morning to join our webinar. I put a quick agenda here, just kind of what we're going to run through. I think one of the important things is that we want to kind of tell you why we chose DESTINI Profiler. We kind of started with Beck back, I would say, as Holly mentioned earlier, probably 5 years ago is when we initially started with Beck Technology. Then we'll go into the Profiler implementation plan, and then really kind of go into the recent enhancements and modifications that we made within the last year. We'll run a demonstration of the wizards that we worked with Beck to create. And then we'll end the discussion with the kind of what we see as our return on investment. So why did we ended up choosing DESTINI Profiler? I think there's some of the important things here. One is just the innovation. We kind of look at ourselves as our company. We stay on top with technology. So I think just the innovation, just the relationship there, just have that same mindset. Also, obviously, providing that real-time cost estimating to the owners. We hear that term a lot these days. So this is a tool that can provide a quick estimate with with a visual of what the building could potentially look like. The other big thing for us was the customization of the product. Whenever we would ask Beck, can we do this? There was never a no to the answer. We'll figure it out. So I think we each challenged each other. And then just the collaboration of the software, just with the owners and designers in the room. And then obviously with the other, I'm sure most of you are aware, but the modifications that we can make on the fly with the product. And one thing I will add to this is we've been into some presentations with this software where we may run into questions at the 12th hour, could be a Sunday night or whatever, but I'll just have to say that customer support from Beck Technology is probably hands down top notch. In addition to that, we also looked as Beck Technology they're a construction company too, so they developed the software in-house that had the construction mindset. With a lot of software that usually coming from software companies, so just having someone to develop the software that could take the construction side with some of the logic was another key part to that.
This is Tony McDaniel. Another thing I want to add to this here is for all the users of SketchUp and Navisworks and Revit, it's kind of great to have those programs, and you can actually see the design and where it's going. But one of the things that owner always requests is real-time estimating. And everyone always says, like, what does real-time mean? Does that mean now? Does that mean, can I get back to you in a day? Can I get back to you in a week? And real-time for us was actually sitting down with an owner and actually looking at a design very, very early be a conceptual model to say, now, your project will be this dollar amount. So real-time meant immediately. And that was one of the other reasons why we reached out to Beck, so we can actually give what we call at Messer real-time cost.
So just kind of moving on here, just kind of talk a little bit about the history with Beck Technology. So initially we engaged Beck back in 2013 for this product that we actually came across, I think, at some software conventions. And so Beck reached out to us, so we set up a time to meet with them. And our big focus at that time was the focus on healthcare because we have a pretty robust database of just costs with, I guess, functional spaces of a hospital. So we developed with Beck the cost model based on functional areas. So we initially linked this to our Timberline database, and then we would basically, we created a high, medium, and low cost for each of these spaces. So essentially you're drawing the rooms into the space. We initially had, I would say 8 people trained on the software. I would say it'd be myself and Tony that carried it through with that, with using the software. Then, so we currently right now have 2 additional individuals that are trained. So we have a total of 4 that can use the program, but we also have trained our senior level estimators just to understand how the program works. So recently here in 2016, within the last year and a half, I would say we made some pretty substantial updates to the program. We ended up taking our healthcare database and enhancing that, but we also came across to develop an industrial model and as well as an academic science model. So we worked with Beck to basically develop a wizard for all 3 of these softwares, or for all 3 of these models. Really some examples that we made with the enhancements and modifications is, a lot of times you were getting the questions of structural systems, is it a concrete frame or a steel frame? And as you can see down the list with foundations, different MEP systems that we can actually answer the question if we're asked in the meeting. So actually next, I would like to kind of run through, kind of show you in our database manager some of the changes that we ended up making. So if you can kind of see the screen here, so we created a lot of different, as I mentioned earlier, with the enhancements from different electrical systems. As you will see, there's a lot of different items that pertain to basically has the industrial as well with the healthcare, different foundation systems. So, and then over here to the right, you'll see we can quickly modify the cost as we start to see the cost, change, throughout the, basically through escalation or just new costs that we've come across. So quickly, we're gonna, I have a wizard that I have created. So as you will see, there's kind of a spreadsheet. This is basically an Excel spreadsheet that was that's imported into DProfiler. And this one, for an example, is of a hospital project where we can assign the areas for each functional space, determine the number of floors, and then as you'll see, as we go ahead and run the wizard, where it's going to basically come up with a building of approximately 250,000 square feet. So here comes to the question of with the wizard. There's a few questions. You don't have to answer all these. As I mentioned earlier, it has all of our different modifications for each of the academic health, or academic science, healthcare, and as well as the industrial. But for this example, we're gonna end up running the healthcare model. So we'll just answer a few questions here as you'll start to see me clicking through. So here's one that we also created that has a high-level core and shell. But since we know, we're going to assume that we know a little bit about the foundation systems for this building, so we don't have to end up using that. That's basically a gap filler to say if we don't know anything about it, it'll put a cost in for structure and foundation. Same with the next line item that is on a high-level MEP, which would just be the infrastructure portion of it. So we'll go ahead for that. We'll go ahead and assume that we're going to use a high-level MEP, and then we can make, you know, modifications as we start to know additional information. So we're going to come down here to the bottom where we get to the foundation and structure. So we can pick a different type of shoring system. So we'll just go ahead and assume this is going to be laid back. And here's a question about the structure type. We'll assume this is going to be a steel structure. And with that, we'll go ahead and hit next, and we'll finish the wizard. This is what you see on your screen now is we wanted to put since we're basically in 9 different regions, that we wanted to put, each city has its own cost index. So we wanted to have that functionality to, if it's in a different region, to apply that cost index. So for this, we will use the Cincinnati, but we do also have the option if it's in a city that it's not part of our 9 regions. So we'll go ahead and hit next to finish the wizard. So as you see on your screen, it's just a pretty plain gray box. But back in the spreadsheet, we did develop, you know, areas of different functional spaces. So with that, you will see we have each color represents a functional area. For instance, the purple that you see on top would be, that's all the area that we have for patient rooms. So we can actually go through and turn each layer off just to look at the space allocation. For instance, if we wanted just to see what the first floor looked like, each of those spaces represent, it could represent a pharmacy, could represent an operating room or an ER. So now we'll go and take a look at the estimate view. As I mentioned earlier, you will see that we have basically the 3 or 4 functional spaces in the room or in the building. But we also have, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, the gap fillers for the brick or the exterior facade system. And as I mentioned, the MEP infrastructure. But now that we're in the estimate, we can make modifications pretty quickly. So I'd like to go in and just kind of do an example for the to make a modification to for the exterior of the building. So with these wizards, we actually did build multiple, as you'll see here on the list, multiple cladding with roofing and glazing. So we'll go ahead and just make a modification for the exterior cladding. And we'll just pick this elevation. And we'll pick this elevation here. As you'll see, that turned from the gray color to that's going to represent brick. Now, if we end up going back to our estimate view, you will see that we do have an area of brick at the 22,000 square feet, but we still are also carrying enough square footage to carry skin for the rest of the building. And one additional modification we make would be really to the MEP infrastructure. And for instance, right now, it is showing we're based on a high-level MEP. So we can actually make the switch that we know a little bit more about the system. So now we're going to get questions in regards to what kind of mechanical systems or electrical systems that we can pick. So with that, we'll go ahead and make a couple selections here, or make one selection. And we will go back to the estimate view. And you will see that now it's kicking in specifics to say that fire protection is a dry pipe system. Electrical is now standard. So we're not back to, in the same with the mechanical HVAC systems, we are on an air-cooled system, and then the plumbing is a high fixture density. So with that, just we'll go back to the presentation here. That's really, I guess, from the wizard development, just kind of a quick demonstration. Kind of want to kind of end the conversation really what we see with, you know, the return on investment from our side of things. One is the software for us is driving quicker, informed decisions. It enhances the collaboration amongst our owners and design team. And then ultimately, you know, when we're pulling estimates together, and even for the owner, you know, time is money. So this is something that we can turn around pretty quickly depending on the amount of information we get. But, you know, primarily we're using it in our presentations with owners. Tony, is there anything you'd like?
Yeah, I want to say in regards to return on investment as well, the thing is you're going to get out of the program what you put into the program. So early on when Matt was talking about high, medium, and low, we actually took a number of our estimates on our various regions and actually used those as models when we first started. And when we say high, that would be like a heavy renovation. Medium would be just a medium renovation, and light would just be a few finishes here and there. But the thing is, once we start digging into the program and say, you know what do we really want to get out of it? And we knew from a healthcare standpoint, there's nothing better than giving an owner, hey, we have 10,000 square foot of exam rooms, or we have this many square foot of patient rooms. That's typically the language that we would hear when sitting down with our customers. Because the thing is, their return on investment becomes our return on investment. You know, they can make quicker, better, faster decisions based on what we can give them in real time. So an owner were to come to us and say, we need a 300,000 square foot hospital, for example. But by the way, we can't afford that 300,000 square foot because we would like to at least make one floor being a top floor core and shell. Based on what we did with our programming, we're actually able to work with Beck Technology to figure that out very quickly. So we can actually do core and shell in a meeting with an owner to say that, hey, this is your cost, you were to go ahead and core and shell that floor. In the same breath, we had and we're using Timberline software here at Messer Construction. We're actually able to put all the codes that we typically would see in any of our estimates in this program as well. And for those that have RS means, you can add that in there as well. So the more information that you're actually putting into the system, the quicker, the faster information you can actually provide to owners. Now, I'm going to say our return on investment, on one project, it pays for itself for all those that want to get down to the nitty gritty of it. Everyone's always heard about, you know, time value of money and real-time estimating. Well, Messer, as well as one of our competitors, was challenged with a large project here in Cincinnati. And what the owner wanted to see was basically some real-time cost information and what that entails. That project happened to be over $300 million. DESTINI Profiler was a differentiator in us getting that project. to date is one of our selling tools that we use in all of our 9 regions. And I tell everybody, whoever wants to use, this program, please modify the program to how you use it. And Beck will work with you, just like they work with us, to make sure that you're looking at something that you typically look at every day from an estimating standpoint. And like, once again, I'm going to say, whatever you put into it, is what you're going to get out of it. And for Messer, one-time usage, I'm going to say we actually use the program a lot, but just one program it pays for itself. One big project it pays for itself, big time. And we're still using the program. Questions, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions out there.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Matt. We do have a few questions here. If anyone else has them, feel free to go ahead and type them on. We'll stay on for about 5 more minutes just to get some answered. So regarding the wizard, Matt and Tony, who determined which questions were going to be asked in the wizard, and were they created by Beck Technology or by Messer?
No, these were created by Messer to create those questions in Wizard, and we also, like I said, we also would, with our senior level estimating team, to drive those questions to ask.
Okay. And just touching on that, I know you said you talked with your senior estimating team. How long would you say the whole process of, saying you're going to create the wizard and then actually having an end product took? And maybe talk to how much dedicated resources you had to make to have that happen.
Okay. Well, for us, it took steps because we wanted to just see how fast we get information out of the program. So initially, when we started at the high, medium, and low, from a healthcare standpoint, because that's what we actually started with, that was maybe 3 months, 4 months, starting out of the gate. From there, we knew we wanted to break it down throughout all the healthcare functional areas. We wanted to get something going so we could see how the program would work. So from there, we actually probably spent an additional 3 months of breaking things up. So I'm going to say probably 6 months of input of information was used to actually create that.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then just touching on the ROI that y'all mentioned at the end, I know you said one project kind of paid for itself. Could you give the audience a number of how much time you think the wizards have saved you? Are you able to do a turnaround 50% quicker, or what would you say the return on investment time-wise has been?
Oh man, it's quicker than that. I mean, right now I'm able to go and do any healthcare project. I'm going to say in the range of $60 million to $1 billion, and like real time immediately.
Well, that's very fast. So you're saying, as big of a project as $1 billion, you're able to turn around an estimate in the same day.
Yeah, the same day.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all the questions we have for today, but I want to thank Matt and Tony for sharing this with us and also staying around for questions. We're going to go ahead and end this webinar, but I will be sending out the recording later today. Thank you, and thank you, Matt and Tony.
Thanks.
Thank you.